so dark in this tent, you know. It reminds me when the Beatles, the four Beatles, us.
From Liverpool.
Welcome to WatchMojoUK, and today we're bringing you the ultimate Beatles compilation.
The only person I wish I had met was John Lennon, because he's the one that I did idolise.
First, let's take a look at some fascinating stories behind Beatles songs.
Here Comes the Sun.
Here comes the sun, doo-doo-doo. Here comes the sun, I say.
This George Harrison composition is a musical embodiment of joy. Harrison somehow captured the visual beauty of a sunrise. A song that celebrates the end of the dark, cold winter months. It may not come as a total surprise to learn that the quiet Beatle was in something of a dark place when he wrote it.
Here comes the sun, I say, it's alright.
In his autobiography, I, Me, Mine, Harrison mused that in 1969 the spark had gone out of his songwriting, saying that Apple was getting like school, where we had to go and be businessmen, sign this and sign that. Attempting to break free of that corporate monotony, Harrison wrote the song while walking around Eric Clapton's garden and noodling around his guitar.
Here comes the sun, here comes the sun.
Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds.
Picture yourself in a boat on a river.
Folks, for what seems like the millionth time, this trippy Sgt. Pepper's cut is not about LSD, the drug, that is. We're admittedly not sure we can take John Lennon at his word when considering his claim that he was inspired by his son Julian.
Look for the girl with the sun in her eyes and she's gone.
As the elder Lennon's story goes, Julian presented his father with a drawing of a classmate, with a caption that would later serve as this song's title. As for the song's lyrical content, Lennon asserted that he was inspired by the writing style of Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland. Sure, John, LSD had nothing to do with it.
Lucy in the sky with diamonds.
Sexy Sadie.
Sexy Sadie, what have you done?
The Beatles' trip to India expanded their minds to new creative possibilities. While there, they wrote and composed a number of experimental tunes that would serve as the backbone of their 1968 self-titled album.
You laid it down below the sea. Sexy Sadie.
Popularly referred to as the White Album. Ostensibly there to experience some kind of divine enlightenment, John Lennon quickly had that illusion shattered. Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, the Beatles' spiritual advisor, was accused of making a pass at Mia Farrow, who was with the Beatles at their ashram in Rishikesh, India. The last song Lennon wrote in India, Sexy Sadie, details Lennon's disillusionment with the Maharishi, albeit with a pseudonym at George Harrison's suggestion.
Sexy Sadie, oh, you get yours yet. We gave her everything we own just to sit at her table.
Norwegian Wood, The Bird Has Flown.
I once had a girl, or should I say, she once had me.
Possibly one of the most crucial pieces in the entire Beatles catalogue, this Rubber Soul fan favourite represents a creative high point for the Fab Four. Norwegian Wood finds the Beatles experimenting with a new sonic palette, featuring George Harrison's sitar playing and reportedly inspired by Bob Dylan's writing style. The song's lyrical content deals with a real-life affair, which found John Lennon cheating on his wife, Cynthia.
She's shown me her room, isn't it good? Norwegian Wood.
It's still unclear as to exactly who the song is about, as Lennon never disclosed that in his life. At least John didn't burn anyone's house down in reality. We think.
She asked me to stay and she told me to sit anywhere.
Strawberry Fields Forever.
Let me take you down, 'cause I'm going to Strawberry Fields.
Don't be fooled by this song's groundbreaking pioneering production and sound, or its opaque existentialist lyrics. It's actually inspired by John Lennon's childhood memories, particularly a residential childcare community called, you guessed it, Strawberry Field.
Living is easy with eyes closed.
Mimi Smith, Lennon's maternal aunt, remembered that, as a child, the future Beatle was fascinated by the Salvation Army brass band that would play Strawberry Field's annual garden party. Once again inspired by Lewis Carroll, as well as Hindu texts and ideas, Lennon wrote psychedelic lyrics that pined for a simpler, more innocent time, prior to the Beatles' explosion onto the global scene.
I think I know, yes, but it's all wrong. That is, I think I disagree.
A Day in the Life.
I read the news today, oh boy.
This probably goes without saying, but LSD was at least partially the inspiration for a great deal of the Beatles' late period output, but definitely not Lucy in the Sky. This was no less apparent than on A Day in the Life, the dramatic, ominous Sgt. Pepper's closing number. John Lennon and Paul McCartney worked eyeball to eyeball, as they often did, to contribute the song's individual sections, with Lennon composing the first and third sections and McCartney adding in its middle eight. The song's lyrical content was inspired by a series of news items that had struck Lennon, particularly the untimely death of Guinness heir Tara Brown and a Lancashire Telegraph article about potholes in Blackburn.
Woke up, fell out of bed, dragged a comb across my head.
Yesterday.
Yesterday, all my troubles seem so far away.
Paul McCartney is such a good songwriter that his best ideas come to him in his sleep. According to Macca, he dreamed of yesterday's melody at his then-girlfriend Jane Asher's house and rushed to the piano to play it as soon as he woke up. Unable to think of a good title, he simply called the composition Scrambled Eggs.
Suddenly, I'm not half the man I used to be.
McCartney tinkered with the song until the other Beatles had tired of hearing it and demanded that McCartney finish writing it or abandon it completely. According to Paul and John, they couldn't crack the song's lyrical content until Lennon, also having just woken up, suggested Yesterday. Good call.
Why she had to go, I don't know. She wouldn't say.
Blackbird.
Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly.
It didn't happen often, but when the Beatles covered politics in their music, it was a sound that rang out for the ages. Such is the case with Blackbird, perhaps one of the most iconic and beloved Beatles compositions.
Blackbird fly into the light of a dark black night.
Paul McCartney has offered up a few different glimpses into what went into writing the song, with the most consistent being the then contemporary American civil rights movement. On that note, a blackbird should be taken to refer to a black girl, with the song as a whole describing a mass cultural awakening and liberation, acting as a message of solidarity from across the pond.
You were only waiting for this moment to be free.
Hey Jude.
Hey Jude, don't make it bad.
If you know the first thing about Beatles lore, you'll pretty quickly learn that John Lennon probably could have been a better husband and father. Young Julian Lennon was obviously shaken by the news that his parents, John and Cynthia, would divorce following John's affair with Yoko Ono.
Then you begin to make it better.
Concerned for the younger Lennon's well-being, Paul McCartney went to visit Cynthia and Julian, dismayed at their sudden ejection from the group's lives. On the drive over, he composed Hey Jude. Originally titled Hey Jules, the song is a show of support to Julian, to let him know that despite his situation at the time, everything would, in time, be all right. Let It Be.
When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me.
Remember when we said that Paul McCartney could write music in his sleep? Let It Be is yet another reminder of that. The last single that the group put out before McCartney quit the Beatles, this simple, powerful, gospel-esque pop hymn was inspired by his mother, Mary.
For though they may be parted, there is still a chance that they will see.
McCartney's mother, see where we're going with this, died in 1956. McCartney was only 14 at the time. Sharing that he felt very blessed to have that dream, Paul recalled that Mary had assured him that all would eventually work out. While the lads from Liverpool would soon disband, Let It Be stands as a shining, spiritual testament to their ability to capture listeners' hearts.
Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be.
Which Beatles song hits you the hardest? Let us know in the comments below.
Yesterday.
Next up, let's lighten the mood. It's time for the Beatles parodies.
Number 8. Harry and Paul.
We're still together, 50 years on.
Enfield and Whitehouse are two of Britain's best when it comes to satire, so it's easy to see why they'd end up on this list. In this alternate reality, the Beatles are still together, only far less famous and well off.
Hurrah for the Beatles.
We're big cheeses.
We're bigger than cheeses.
Oops.
They face new challenges like rude members of the press and those devious Gallagher brothers from Oasis.
No bet. You should be called the Dung Beatles because you like the Beatles, only
It's full of daft encounters that are punctuated by even dafter song parodies, which we somehow can't stop tapping our toes to.
All you need is love and biscuits. What we're dreaming of is biscuits.
Number 7. Family Guy. Over the years, Family Guy has spoofed everything under the sun, so it's no wonder the Beatles have been the target of that a couple of times.
I'm in love with Ringo.
What?
I said, I don't know what I said.
Sounded like you said you were in love with Ringo.
Though, unlike a few of the others, they definitely don't hold back with their jabs. Many people will think of the Ringo songwriting cutaway first, as it's arguably the funniest.
Hey guys, I wrote a song.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, good, Ringo.
Fantastic.
You know what? I'm gonna put it right here. Right on the refrigerator.
But perhaps the most brutal of them all is the one where Stewie recounts the time he met John Lennon.
Now fess up or I'll do to you what I did to John Lennon. John, have you met Yoko, John?
Number 6. Pinky and the Brain. Yep, that's not the only time the Beatles have been featured in animated form.
These tranquil mountains are the perfect place to show the world the power of love and dental hygiene.
Yeah, man, it's good to get away from all those screaming girls.
Here, Pinky becomes a sort of famous guru, which obviously catches the interest of the Liverpool lads. Well, not the ones we're used to. These guys are called the Feebles. Their meeting with their new spiritual guide results in, what else? A song.
All you eat is lunch. All you drink is punch. You don't have time to munch.
The episode eventually leads to John Lennon, we mean Jim Lemon, meeting this universe's equivalent to Yoko.
She's awful. She's terrible.
She can't sing.
I love her.
It's a cute, inoffensive spoof that was probably lost on most of the children that watched it.
Try to take over the world.
The dinky, the pinky, and the brain. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Number 5. I'll Kill.
Who knows how long I've loved you, but you don't love me still.
A parody of McCartney's lovey-dovey masterpiece, I Will. What's not to love? Well, this one takes a very dark turn very quickly.
If you want me to, I'll kill.
Peter Serafinowicz plays a deranged version of Paul, who aims to show his love in the most gruesome way imaginable.
But although I'll be in prison, I'll be thinking about your kissing.
A serial killer-esque anthem, it's the type of thing only he could pull off and get away with. But trust us, this won't be the only time you see Serafinowicz on this list.
Send to me all you know I'll kill. I'll kill.
Number 4. The Rootles.
Tea. You know, we drink very good breakfast. We put the water in the tea. There's the tea. Jolly nice.
What started as a silly joke turned into something much bigger. Eric Idle and Neil Innes may be best known for their work with the Monty Python troupe, but when they made a parody band of the Beatles, they kept it going because it was so popular.
Out. Don't you let me out. Please don't let me out. Ow, ow, ow.
Their satirical songs, such as Major Happy's up-and-coming Once Upon a Good Time band, were even released on albums over the years.
Get up and go. Get up and go. Get up and go back home.
Surprisingly, the Beatles didn't take issue with the parody at all. In fact, they loved it. George Harrison even encouraged them to work on a film about them. Number 3, Walk Hard.
We're nothing but grains of sand.
That was freaking transcendental, Paul McCartney. Don't you agree, John Lennon?
Yes, Dewey Cox.
Sometimes when an impression is purposefully horrible, it makes it that much funnier. In this comedy film, we see the rise of fictional music legend Dewey Cox, and he meets a number of famous faces throughout his journey.
It's so dark in this tent, you know. It reminds me when we, the Beatles, the 4 Beatles, us.
From Liverpool.
Yes, we are from Liverpool.
Most memorable, however, has to be when he meets the Beatles, played by Jack Black, Paul Rudd, Jason Schwartzman and Justin Long, respectively. Their accents are atrocious, but maybe that's why it works so well.
We're big fans of your records too.
We dare even guess that this bit wasn't scripted, because they just keep coming out with nonsense.
Don't tell me what to say and what not to say, Paul McCartney.
I'm sick of you being so dark when I'm so impish and whimsical.
Number 2, Star Stories.
There's not even anything for a sitar. I mean, you can't have a rock song without a sitar. And he's even written one without drums.
A bit of a forgotten gem in British comedy, Star Stories took a hilarious route in documenting the lives and times of many British celebs. Perhaps the funniest of all was the Beatles, despite being just a brief flashback.
Who's the daddy? Hey, who's the f***ing daddy?
You are, Paul.
That's right. This is my band. And from now on, the Beatles are going to release nothing but jaunty, whimsical Edwardian ditties.
Taking presumptions about the Fab Four's personalities and amping them up for hilarity, this sketch will have you in stitches with how crude it is.
I'm even going to let Ringo sing a couple.
But I'm at singing. Oh, I know.
Paul is portrayed as an absolute monster, ruling the Beatles with an iron fist. Not quite the peace and love vibe we're used to.
Now get up on that roof and start playing.
Oh, no, it's cold up there. I mean, I've got Indian blood.
Get on the f***ing roof!
Number 1, The Peter Serafinowicz Show.
Paul had written a Christmas song, and he asked me if I wanted to come and play drums in the video. I said, sure, that's what I do. I just wish I'd listened to the bloody song first.
Serafinowicz is a master impressionist, and his talents really shine in this series of sketches called Ringo Remembers. Here, as the name would suggest, he plays Ringo Starr as he recounts legendary moments in his and the Beatles' history. Of course, he doesn't just play Ringo in these, he plays the whole gang.
I was the best one out of the Beatles.
When I heard that, I was bloody furious.
From bearing witness to the genesis of Imagine to recreating the legendary rooftop performance, this series is a riot from start to finish.
Take a load off of your mind. Take a load off your behind.
Believe us when we say you won't be able to get Ringo's Goldfinger song out of your head.
Well, I've heard that it's gold. I've heard that it's a finger. Hey, don't shoot me. I'm just the bloody singer.
Think you're the ultimate Beatles fan? Here's 10 things you didn't know about the Beatles.
Number 10, an uncredited Rolling Stone. In a unique intersection of rock royalty, Brian Jones from the Rolling Stones contributed to the Beatles' iconic song All You Need Is Love during its live broadcast for the Our World programme. In 1967, Jones played the saxophone, blending seamlessly into the ensemble that also featured a live orchestra.
All you need is love. All you need is love.
This global broadcast marked the first live international satellite television production, reaching an audience of over 400 million viewers across 25 countries. Despite the magnitude of the event and Jones's participation, his contribution remained officially uncredited, embodying the spirit of collaboration and unity the song itself celebrated. Number 9. Lennon Attack.
I'm Bob Willer, host of the Cavern Club in Matthew Street, and I've lived here all my life.
In 1963, an incident occurred that cast a shadow on John Lennon's public image. Bob Wooler, the Cavern Club's DJ, made a joking remark about Lennon's recent holiday with Brian Epstein, suggesting a romantic relationship between them. Lennon, who was already under the influence of alcohol at Paul McCartney's 21st birthday party, reacted violently to the insinuation. He physically attacked Wooler, resulting in injuries that required hospital treatment. This event not only obviously strained Lennon's relationship with Wooler, but also highlighted the intense pressures and scrutiny faced by the Beatles during their rise to fame. Lennon later expressed regret over the altercation, acknowledging the terrible impact of his actions. Number 8. First rock band to be awarded MBEs.
Brian came and said, they want to give you these MBEs. We're going to accept.
In 1965, the Beatles made history not just on the music charts, but in the annals of British honours when they were appointed members of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire. This accolade, traditionally reserved for military heroes and civic leaders, was awarded to the band for their services to music, particularly noting their international success and contribution to British cultural prestige.
MBE. Thank you. John Lennon, MBE. Oh, sorry.
The decision, made by Queen Elizabeth II, was met with mixed reactions. Some previous recipients returned their medals in protest, viewing the Beatles as unsuitable honorees. Nonetheless, this recognition underscored the changing social norms of the 1960s and the rising significance of popular culture.
How do you feel, John, about having the MBE?
I feel great, we're honoured.
Number 7. The secret sound of I Am the Walrus. I Am the Walrus stands out in the Beatles' discography for its avant-garde composition and cryptic lyrics, but a lesser-known fact is its inclusion of a BBC radio broadcast of Shakespeare's King Lear. This choice was made spontaneously during the song's recording session by John Lennon, who wanted to add an element of chaos and unpredictability to the track. As the song progresses, listeners can hear parts of the play, specifically Act 4, Scene 4, adding a layer of cultural depth and complexity. This artistic decision exemplifies the band's innovative use of technology and sound, blending classic literature with contemporary music in a way that was unprecedented at the time. Number 6. Ringo's fear of flying. Despite the Beatles' extensive international tours and the global nature of their fame, Ringo Starr grappled with a significant personal challenge: a fear of flying. This phobia presented obstacles for Starr, particularly during the height of the band's success, when air travel was often necessary for concerts, promotions, and recordings across the world. Starr's fear was not only a testament to the personal hurdles faced by public figures, but also highlighted how they had to navigate such fears amidst their professional obligations. Over the years, Starr has had to employ various coping mechanisms to manage this anxiety, demonstrating the resilience required to balance personal issues with the demands of stardom. Number 5. The original lyrics of Yesterday.
All my troubles seem so far away.
One of the Beatles' most beloved ballads initially began with far less poignant lyrics than the version known today. Paul McCartney famously dreamt the melody, and upon waking, immediately set it to the placeholder lyrics "Scrambled eggs, or my baby how I love your legs," to ensure he wouldn't forget the tune. McCartney's temporary lyrics reflect the whimsical and humorous side of his songwriting process.
For yesterday.
It wasn't until later that he refined the words to the reflective and melancholic lyrics that would make Yesterday a timeless classic. This song, showcasing McCartney's process of crafting melodies and lyrics, eventually became one of the most covered songs in the history of recorded music.
In yesterday.
Number 4. Moptop Origins. The iconic Beatle haircut, which became a hallmark of the band's image and a symbol of 1960s youth rebellion, has its roots in a chance encounter with German photographer Astrid Kircher. Kircher, who was closely associated with the band during their early days in Hamburg, is credited with styling then bassist Stuart Sutcliffe's hair into what would become the signature mop-top look. This style was soon adopted by the rest of the band, marking a departure from the slicked-back hairstyles of the era. The haircut's popularity underscored the band's influence beyond music, affecting fashion and cultural attitudes worldwide. It also symbolized the band's break from traditional norms, embodying the spirit of the emerging counterculture movement. Number 3. A movie script unfilmed.
Let's do something then. Like what?
Renowned author Richard Condon, best known for The Manchurian Candidate, penned a movie script titled A Talent for Loving, specifically for the Beatles. Condon's script, a western comedy, aimed to capitalize on the band's popularity and comedic talents. However, despite the initial proposal, the project never materialized into a film. While the Beatles ventured into cinematic endeavors with films like A Hard Day's Night and Help, A Talent for Loving remained a missed opportunity.
What's up? Oh, he's sulking again.
The script's existence underscores the widespread fascination with the band during the height of Beatlemania, as well as the diverse range of projects proposed to capitalize on their fame.
Hey,
Number 2. Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds artwork.
Picture yourself in a boat on a river.
The inspiration for the renowned psychedelic anthem came from a charming source, a drawing by John Lennon's young son, Julian. The artwork depicted his classmate, Lucy O'Donnell, surrounded by stars. Julian's description of the drawing, as Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, struck a chord with Lennon, leading to the creation of one of the Beatles' most iconic songs.
Lucy in the sky with diamonds.
Despite widespread speculation that the song's title was a veiled reference to psychedelics, Lennon consistently denied these claims, attributing the imagery and the acronym purely to his son's imagination. This backstory reveals the song's roots in childlike wonder, contrasting with its association with the boundary-pushing era.
Lucy in the sky with diamonds. Lucy in the sky with diamonds.
Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.
Number 1. Sgt. Pepper's Hidden Message.
It was 20 years ago today. Sgt. Pepper taught the band to play.
In the grooves of the original UK vinyl pressing of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, the Beatles left a curious surprise for their fans. A hidden, untitled sound collage in the run-out groove. This mysterious loop, audible only on manual turntables that do not automatically lift the needle at the end of the record, consists of random, indistinct chatter and laughter intended as a playful joke from the band to their listeners. This edition underscored the Beatles' innovative use of recording technology and their desire to push the boundaries of the album as an art form. The hidden message, often referred to as an inner groove, adds an element of mystique and interaction.
Lastly, we're taking a look at the day that shook the world. Here are the celebrity reactions to John Lennon's death. Freddie Mercury.
The only person I wish I had met was John Lennon. Because he's the one that I did idolize, and I just thought he was just a very beautiful human being.
John Lennon's poetic lyricism had enraptured Mercury from day one. He even stated that Lennon's contributions to the Beatles' discography were his most favoured. Sadly, the two would never meet, despite Freddie's admiration for the star. When he learned of John's death, he was, quote, shocked and dumbfounded. It must have been an especially difficult time as Queen was in the middle of touring at the time, but the show, of course, must go on. In a loving tribute, just one night after Lennon's passing, Mercury and the band would perform their own rendition of Imagine.
Imagine there's no heaven.
Despite once saying he could never be on par with Lennon, this cover perfectly conveyed the beauty of his song's message. Keith Richards. People often talk about the heated rivalry between the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, but in reality, the two bands got along very well. Lennon and McCartney even famously wrote songs for them.
I used to hang with John off and on quite a bit, and he was outrageous. I mean,
Lennon in particular had a strong relationship with guitarist Keith Richards, so you can already assume that there was a big reaction on his part.
just great mates, and I mean, he's a free spirit.
Richards was actually staying in New York at the time of the shooting, and when he learned of John's fate, he did not take the news well at all. According to his own account, Richards was so enraged by the situation that he went ahead and got a hold of a firearm. He began searching the streets of New York for the perpetrator himself with what one can only assume were violent intentions in mind. Ronald Reagan. This may surprise you, but John Lennon and Ronald Reagan actually met once during an American football game, and they hit it off. Despite their contrasting political opinions, Lennon was said to have liked Reagan as a person. Fast forward a few years to John's death, and Reagan was president-elect. Being the biggest story at the time, he was approached by reporters to give his thoughts on the incident. He expressed regret over what happened and said that something needed to be done about crime on the streets.
I said, what can anyone say? It's a great tragedy, and it's just another evidence of that we have to try and stop happening in this world.
He was quick to say that he did not, however, believe that this meant there should be more discussion over whether people should be allowed to own handguns.
I believe in the kind of handgun legislation we have in California.
One has to wonder if his perspective on gun control ever changed, as just a few months later, Reagan also became a victim of gun violence himself when an attempt on his life was made by someone who, similar to the case with John's assailant Mark David Chapman, was also unhealthily obsessed with a celebrity.
Shots were fired, apparently at President Reagan as he was coming out of the Washington Hilton Hotel this afternoon.
Howard Stern.
Too many people. But this is an attack on John. Because John was going around proselytizing, he was preaching to everybody, and in this song you're saying too many people preaching at us, too many people going underground.
Despite Stern's celebrity status as a radio personality, we can look to his reaction as a good representation to how most fans felt upon hearing the news.
One of the saddest mornings of my life. I'll never forget this morning. People always ask us, what'd you do the day you found out that John Lennon was shot to death?
The morning after the tragedy, he went on air and was still in complete disbelief. He recounted all the amazing things John had done for the music world and shared some of his memories of the Beatles.
In the studio here with me is pictures of John Lennon. I've got all kinds of books about John Lennon, and I'm reading through them, and it's giving me the chills, it's giving me the creeps. Thank you for being with me this morning.
Listening to this recording is a brilliant time capsule that gives great insights on how everyday folks felt after John's death. We even get to hear Stern talk to a number of listeners as they gush over how much John's music and messages meant to them.
He stood for what he believed in, and
he sure
without
did.
any qualms at all.
He could do anything.
Yoko Ono.
It was so sudden, and I think that was that was very difficult for me.
You simply can't talk about John Lennon without mentioning the person that meant the world to him. Reports do vary on how she allegedly took the news that he had died, with one account saying she slammed her head into the concrete floor of the hospital in anguish. Yoko remembers it differently, however, saying that she did her best to stay calm at the time because she didn't want to make their son Sean panic. Other people's accounts of the events do seem to point towards this being the more likely case.
Yoko Ono released a statement tonight. She says that she told their 5-year-old son Sean what happened and took him to the spot where John lay after he was shot.
The next day, Yoko made this statement: "There is no funeral for John. Later in the week, we will set the time for a silent vigil to pray for his soul. We invite you to participate from wherever you are at the time. John loved and prayed for the human race. Please pray the same for him. Love, Yoko and Sean." Elton John.
And of course, the tragedy happened, and I never really
told him how much I loved him. You don't, do you?
Elton John has very publicly had difficulties with mental health, and honestly, the passing of his friend John Lennon couldn't have come at a worse time.
What's your immediate reaction? Too stunned to say I've been told.
But Elton used his grief to fuel his creativity. He wrote the song Empty Garden, Hey Hey Johnny, which was dedicated to his loving memory.
I found an empty garden among the flagstones there.
According to Elton John, however, the song makes him far too emotional when he performs it. As such, he's only ever played it live in concert once, and even then, he had difficulty making it to the end. It's clear that the melancholy memories of his friend are simply too much to bear.
Gardener like that one, no one can replace.
Stevie Wonder.
Not saying that I expected for it to happen to him, but I expected that in time that kind of thing would begin to happen, unfortunately, to artists.
Fans who attended his performance at California's Oakland Stadium on December 8, 1980, were a little disappointed at his performance. He seemed to be low energy and not his usual charismatic self, the reason for which would be revealed shortly afterwards. While backstage, Stevie had just gotten the news of what happened to John Lennon. As you might remember, Lennon and Wonder had collaborated in the past in such works as A Toot and a Snore in '74, so this news must have shaken him. Stevie decided to announce to the crowd that John had passed, shedding some light on why he appeared so distraught.
You shot tonight 3 times.
He would then perform his song Superstition, which he said was about people like John Lennon who, quote, lived and died for the principle of unity for all people. George Harrison.
I didn't know, I just went back to sleep actually. I just, maybe it's just a way of getting away from it.
A famous quote immediately comes to mind. I just wanted to be in a band. Here we are 20 years later and some whack job has shot my mate. I just wanted to play guitar in a band. While sorrow may be the foremost reaction people have with grief, anger often accompanies it, as was the case with John's former bandmate, George Harrison. Sure, he was angry at the killer, but surprisingly, George was mad with John too. This was rooted in George's spiritual beliefs. He was said to be angry that John had not partaken in the same mantras and meditations that he did. These daily practices, in relation to his Hare Krishna beliefs, were said to prepare one to correctly leave their physical body upon death, and he wished John had done the same.
I think it's nicer if you can consciously leave your body at death as opposed to just some lunatic shooting you on the street.
George definitely had a complicated perspective on death, and years later, he would state that John's passing, quote, didn't affect his life too much.
There was never a time when you didn't exist, and there'll never be a time when you cease to exist.
Ringo Starr.
And he went out just in such a stupid way, you know.
How did you hear
And the
news?
guy's famous now, for God's sake.
Ringo was actually the last Beatles member to spend time with John before his death, and he's often recounted what a lovely time they had together that night.
It didn't matter it was a year between, we didn't see each other, it was always fine when we did, but it was a particularly great time that I had anyway.
His reaction to the news about John is a lot more cut and dry, exactly what you would expect from someone who had just lost someone close to them. He was staying in the Bahamas on holiday when he got news that John had been shot. Not long after, he discovered that the gunshot was fatal.
It's a very strange time because your emotions are mad, you know what I mean?
Ringo, being the compassionate man he is, immediately flew over to see Ono and John's son Sean to console them. The following year, Ringo was interviewed, and the topic of John's death brought him to tears.
Do you want to stop that now?
No.
Because it doesn't help, you know, but it always gets me upset.
Paul McCartney.
How often do you think about John? How often does it come across
Quite
your
often,
mind?
yeah. Quite often, yeah. I dream about him.
This one had a lot of people scratching their heads. When the press engaged with McCartney after his lifelong friend had been killed, he came across as nonchalant.
Drag, isn't it? Okay, cheers. Bye-bye.
It's no secret that the two had a fractured relationship following the disbanding of the Beatles, but still his reaction seemed callous. There is more to it, however, as Paul has explained. In reality, he was just so shocked and overcome with grief that he couldn't articulate his feelings.
All I could muster was like, it's a drag. And it was like, I couldn't say anything else but that. I just couldn't.
In reflection, to see one of the greatest wordsmiths in music history unable to find the words to express himself just shows the severity of the grief he felt at the time. What Beatles list do you think we should tackle next? Let us know in those comments below.